what is your favorite thing about Swimmingly if you had to pick one thing?
I'm an early adopter of Swimmingly, so I'm kind of handing it over to a new generation of parents. Have Swimmingly at this meet because it'll be, dual meet, no touchpad. I just think for a meet that you're not running all of that, it is the most efficient, the way you're going to get, I think, the most accurate from an executive board member standpoint. Just for management of the league, it saves hours and hours of time.
All right. Are you ready to get into it?
I'm ready.
Perfect. Can you tell me a little bit about your team and league and what your role is and kind of your responsibilities with the league?
I'm the ex officio now of the Williamson County Swim League. So we are a team of 20 summer league teams right outside Nashville. I've been involved in various positions on the executive board of the league for the past 10 years. A lot of change during that period of time, and Swimmingly was probably the biggest change to the league that's happened in that time.
Awesome. What challenges were you facing with your old system that brought you to look at new options like Swimmingly?
Summer league teams have so much turnover in folks. We're kind of unique in that we have a core group of teams that are run by a year-round team. So those teams do have a lot of support for the more traditional ways to run a meet, using high tech, those kinds of things. But it was in 2015, we actually had 3 neighborhood teams join our league, and all 3 had actually already been in contact with Swimmingly, and that was what they planned. Like I said, small neighborhood teams. So they were kind of already bringing Swimmingly into our league, and then we kind of went from there. So it was really, I think it made the transition to get those teams up and running so much easier. They used app, they were good to go, instead of trying to get them high tech and get people trained and get that software loaded and all those things.
Awesome. So my next question is, what helped you make the decision to use Swimmingly?
Well, it's really interesting because I'm an early adopter of Swimmingly. I saw it way back in 2015 at a middle school meet. Charlie and Hayes were there, and it was a demo. And it was amazing because, middle school meets, high school meets, you're not running touch pads. You're doing the old fashioned hand watch, writing it on a piece of paper. So to see it in that format and how much it made that meet speed up, just the thought of, transforming that year-round or into summer league swimming, that was it. And like I said, we had these teams joining. They had looked at it. I will tell you, I'm working a high school meet on Saturday. Man, I wish we were going to have Swimmingly at this meet because it'll be, dual meet, no touchpad. I just think for a meet that you're not running all of that, it is the most efficient, the way you're going to get, I think, the most accurate, just the best way to run it.
I agree.
Yeah.
What are the top 3 pain points that Swimmingly addresses for you guys?
I really think, and I think this is an interesting one, I think fairness. I think it helps treat your team that has 25 kids on it the same as your team that has 200 kids. I think it kind of levels the playing field for all the different kinds of teams that you're going to have in a league. So that's one. 2 is just parents are getting younger that are joining our sport. You order Chick-fil-A on an app, you order Starbucks on an app, you live your life on an app. So I think that's just natural progression that we're going to run our swim meet on an app. Yeah. And then 3rd, for us as a league, it's a great management tool.
I love it. That's awesome. How was the transition to Swimmingly?
I think when you have maybe some old school coaches and people who are just married to their paper, that's always difficult. I mean, that was the hardest thing, is getting people to believe that it works and that you really don't have to have the paper.
Yeah.
I think that's honestly the biggest challenge. And then just there's always going to be glitches as you make any wide scale change. Because like I said, we implemented it as a league. That was our executive board made that decision that it was going to be something, if you're part of our league, you're going to run your meets with this. And so that has been, that's been our stance, and we haven't wavered on it. And I think that consistency, I think, is important.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, you've got people that to this day would rather have, a few people married to the paper. I think
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing.
Awesome. That's great for us to know. What has it meant for your overall league operations, having Swimmingly as your system?
It has, like I said, it's enabled us to, like I said, have fair, consistent rules for everybody. To really, when there are disputes of something that's happened at a meet, we can truly log in and see, like, if they say, well, they only DQ'd kids from this team or whatever, you can actually go in there and see what the true picture is, because people are going to tell you what their perception was. So it's great to be able to see the actual data and just to really have good metrics on what our league looks like, just from, across the board, from age distribution, those kinds of things. It's been great. And we've loved, with the changes most recently, having the parents' email addresses ourselves, because we've used them to send out thank yous at the end of the season directly to the folks who were participants in our league, or to send them surveys about things we could do better. Instead of always having to go to directly, go through the teams and the team reps, we have a direct communication line there with the folks that we serve.
That's awesome. That's great. Do you happen to know any data that you can share along the lines of if your runtime at meets has reduced by a specific amount, your number of volunteers, your amount of time outside of the actual meet doing work like meet prep and closing up the meet? Do you know any of that?
We haven't really put pen to paper and actually quantified it. I do know that the number of volunteers, because before Swimmingly, we had 3 timers per lane.
Oh, wow.
That's definitely a decrease. We only have 2 now. And then at the computer table, there's not a need. You only need 1 person there we usually do 1 from each team, as opposed to having 2 or 3 as you're hand entering and doing stuff. You don't have runners anymore. So, but honestly, we haven't put pen to paper on that. And I know from an administrative standpoint, for us being able to see at a quick glance how many kids are in the league, how many kids are on each team, that used to all be manually calculated with spreadsheets that were sent by the teams. So I know from an executive board member standpoint, just for management of the league, it saves hours and hours of time. So even though you might talk to some of the big teams in our league and they say, oh, our meets are so long. Well, when you have 500 kids in the meet, it's going to be long, but they're able to run those meets in about half that time. They run a 1 session meet maybe in 4 hours.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's great. All right. I have 2 more.
Okay.
These are the fun ones. So what is your favorite thing about Swimmingly, if you had to pick one thing?
It keeps the focus on the fun. At neighborhood team, and I got the experience. We had always swam on a rec club team, but this summer my kids were on a neighborhood team. And it keeps the focus on, people pull their cars up and are sitting on the back of their truck or whatever, watching the meet with their neighbors. And I think it just eliminates, I think, so much of it makes it fun. It's just fun. It's fun to run it on an app. I think it's fun to spend, like I said, less time on all that administrative work, and it keeps the focus on what it's supposed to be, which is that summer league swimming's fun.
What advice would you have for, say I'm a prospective customer thinking maybe I'll switch to Swimmingly next season? What advice would you give to me?
I would honestly, I think you have to keep an open mind and be willing to embrace the change. And because there's going to be, I think it's uncomfortable maybe at first to think about not having your paper. Yeah. It took us a couple years. We're finally to the point we've migrated off the paper DQ slips. That was kind of like our last thing that we just couldn't get. We had a few holdouts that no, you got to have the paper. And now that we've fully implemented it, you can see the full benefit of everything. That'd be my other recommendation too, is to really embrace it for all it has to offer, and not you just gotta rip off the Band-Aid and and move forward. And I think that that works much better.
That's awesome. Good for you guys for getting there and embracing it. I love it. That's awesome.
I love talking about Swimming League. Like I said, I feel like it's I'm kind of phasing out. Like I said, I've been on the executive board for 10 years with the Williamson County Swim League. So I'm kind of handing it over to a new generation of parents. But I like to think that maybe that was my legacy on the league is kind of getting that in place and really hopefully instilling that sense of fun, that sense of ease of meets, that this doesn't have to be hard. It's not supposed to be. So
Absolutely.